My husband told me he had a work retreat over my birthday weekend, so I spent it alone. 3 days later I found out he took my sister to a romantic spa resort instead, and paid for it with the birthday money he secretly took from my wallet. When I confronted him, he laughed while I cried, then said, "You never deserved a gift anyway. At least she knows how to keep a man happy." I didn't say a word. This morning my phone showed 15 missed calls. Sorry for the wall of text, but I need to get this off my chest before I completely lose it. My hands won't stop shaking, and I've rewritten this like 5 times already. I've been with Nicholas for 5 years, married for 3. We didn't meet through dating apps or anything like that. We actually got locked in an art gallery storage room together when the electronic lock system malfunctioned. We ended up trapped for over 2 hours with just his protein bar to share while sitting on the floor surrounded by wrapped sculptures. Maintenance took forever to arrive, but honestly, it was the best meet cute ever. We talked about everything from Caravaggio to our weird childhood pets. When we finally got out, he said being trapped was the luckiest accident of his life and asked for my number. Life with Nicholas has been mostly good tbh. We bought a small house 2 years ago, have a decent group of friends, and generally enjoyed building our life together. My birthday was last weekend. Nicholas has always made my birthday special though. Last year, he surprised me with a weekend trip to Shenandoah. The year before, he organized this amazing dinner with all our friends. But 3 weeks ago, he told me he had this mandatory work retreat over my birthday weekend that he absolutely couldn't get out of. I was disappointed but tried to be understanding about it. He seemed genuinely upset about the timing and kept saying how his boss was being a complete jerk scheduling it over the weekend. He promised we'd celebrate when he got back, maybe even do a mini vacation. I believed him completely. Stupid me. The night before he left, he gave me a small gift, just a pair of earrings, and apologized again for having to miss my birthday. He kissed me and said he wished he could stay. I watched him pack all his business casual clothes and his laptop. He even packed those ridiculous team-building activity clothes companies always make you wear. I helped him pack. God, I'm an idiot. So, my birthday weekend came and went. I spent it alone, ordered DoorDash, binged a couple seasons of that new show, and had a FaceTime call with my parents who wished me happy birthday. My mom asked if Nicholas was doing anything special for me, and I told her about his work thing. She seemed surprised, but didn't say anything else. Now I know why. On Monday, Nicholas came home with souvenirs, fancy chocolates, and a small bottle of wine from the retreat resort. He went on about boring meetings and team-building exercises, seemed tired but happy to be home. Everything felt normal. Then Kayla texted me out of nowhere. We're not super close, more like casual friends. So I didn't think much of it when she said, "Hey, call me when you're alone." I figured maybe something awkward happened or she needed to vent. When I called, she was quiet at first. Then she asked, "Is Nicholas home?" I said no. Then she goes, "Okay, I wasn't going to say anything, but I saw something on Instagram, and I don't know if it means anything. But I recognized Tina." I didn't understand at first. Recognized her where? She sighs and says, "One of my mutuals posted a story from a spa over the weekend. Just a chill pool video. But, I swear to God, Nicholas and your sister are in the background." She sends me the screen recording. And there they were. Nicholas and Tina. My husband. My sister. In the background, clear as fuck. His arm around her. She's leaning into him. He's rubbing her back. They're laughing, smiling, looking comfortable, looking happy, like a damn couple. Meanwhile, I was home alone on my birthday thinking he was at some mandatory work retreat. God, I'm such an idiot. I watched that 10-second clip on repeat. Couldn't believe what I was seeing, but it was them on a 100%. No question. He wore that same stupid vest I helped him pack. She had on the earrings I gave her. You literally cannot make this up. And all this time, they were at a spa together, holding each other like nothing else in the world existed, like I didn't exist. I don't even know what burned more, the cheating, or the fact that they didn't even care enough to hide. He didn't slip up. He didn't make a mistake. He just didn't give a damn. And I would have never known. Not unless some girl Kayla barely knows happened to post a pool story at the exact wrong time for them. I checked our joint account and found a $1,200 withdrawal from the Friday before, nothing labeled as spa or travel. I checked his personal account that I sometimes access for emergencies, but it showed nothing unusual. Then I remembered my birthday money. My grandma had mailed me $800 in cash like she does every year. I'd tucked it into my wallet to deposit later, but when I checked it was gone. Suspicious, I called the spa pretending I needed a receipt for expense reporting. The woman on the phone was incredibly helpful. She looked up the reservation under Nicholas's name, confirmed the dates, and said it was for their romantic weekend package for 2. The total, $11,950. Paid with $800 cash and $150 from a credit card. I realized then, The cash was my birthday money. The rest, that one $200 withdrawal I saw on our joint account. He must have used that to pay off the credit card after the trip. He stole my freaking birthday money to take my sister to a spa resort over my birthday weekend. I waited until Nicholas got home. I showed him the videos Kayla sent me. His face went white, then red. He started with excuses. Tina was going through a hard time and needed someone to talk to. He was just being supportive. I didn't say anything, just pulled up the spa reservation details on my phone and showed him. Then I asked about my birthday money. That's when everything changed. It was like watching someone transform. His face hardened, and he admitted taking the money, admitted everything. He and Tina had been seeing each other for months. Then he laughed while I started crying and told me I never deserved a gift anyway. And at least Tina knows how to keep a man happy. I walked to our bedroom and slammed the door. I could hear him on the phone after that, probably warning Tina that I knew. That was 3 days ago. I haven't spoken a word to him since. He's tried talking to me, switching between angry defensiveness and half-assed apologies. This morning, he left for work like everything's normal, but grabbed his jacket roughly when I wouldn't respond to his goodbye. I haven't called my parents or confronted Tina. I haven't told anyone except Reddit. I feel like I'm walking through someone else's life right now. The thing that keeps replaying in my head isn't even the affair. It's him stealing my birthday money for their romantic weekend. Who does that? When I think about it, my hands start shaking again and I want to throw something. Last night, I found myself Googling divorce lawyers at 3 a.m. I've started screenshots of everything. The bank withdrawals, the resort confirmation, the photos, NGL. I have no idea what to do next. Should I confront my sister? Talk to my parents? Throw all his stuff on the lawn? Sorry for the super long post. I guess I just needed someone to hear this. Thanks for reading if you made it this far. Any advice would be appreciated, especially from anyone who's been through something like this. First update. Hey, it's me again. I honestly didn't expect that many people to read or care about my first post. I wrote it at, 2 a.m. shaking and crying, just needing someone to hear me. I thought maybe a few strangers would say that sucks, and I'd delete it in the morning. But the support, advice, and even just people validating that I'm not crazy, it meant a lot. More than I can put into words. Anyway, it's been almost 2 weeks since I found out my husband was cheating on me with my sister. Still feels like I'm stuck in some weird nightmare. I said I'd update once I had a better idea of what I'm doing. So here we are. The first few days were a total blur. Nicholas and I were just existing in the same space, barely speaking. He kept trying to talk, saying, "We need to have conversation or can we please just sit down?" But I couldn't even look at him. I didn't want to hear more lies. I'd either walk away or pretend I had music in. I was numb. Then out of nowhere, my sister Tina texted me. Just this pathetic message, "I'm sorry. It just happened. I didn't mean for it to come out like that. Girl, you didn't trip and fall into my husband. You chose this. Multiple times. Over months. You knew it was my birthday. You knew I'd be alone. You knew. And that's all you have to say?" I didn't respond. I just sent the text to my mom with, "Ask Tina what this is about." I couldn't even deal with explaining everything yet, but I knew my mom would push her for answers. And wow, did she. Less than an hour later, my phone was lighting up nonstop. My mom, my dad, missed calls, texts, voicemails. I let it sit for a while and then finally picked up. My mom was already crying when I answered. She said she'd called Tina and Tina admitted to everything, that it had been going on for a while and they'd caught feelings. I confirmed it, told her about the photos, the resort confirmation, the money, all of it. My mom was silent for a bit and then asked if she should come over. I told her no. I needed time. My dad called next. That one hit harder. He barely said anything. Just asked if I was safe, if I needed money, anything. His voice cracked halfway through and I just started sobbing. I hadn't cried all day but something about hearing my dad sound broken just shattered me. A couple hours later, our family group chat blew up. Tina told everyone, try to spin it like some tragic love story. We tried to fight it, and we didn't mean to hurt anyone. Robert, our older brother, absolutely ripped her apart. Called her delusional and selfish. Mom sent 6 shocked face emojis and nothing else. Dad said he was profoundly disappointed. I muted the chat. I couldn't handle more emotional whiplash. Anyway, around then, I decided I needed to get my shit together. I called a friend who works at our bank and told her, lightly, that things were rocky and I needed to understand our finances better. She helped me look through our accounts. And that's when I realized the spa weekend was just the tip of the iceberg. Nicholas has been sneaky for months. Little withdrawals marked groceries. But nothing new was ever in the fridge. Work travel that didn't match his actual calendar. Turns out he had 3 credit cards I never knew about, all in his name. And on 2 of them, He added me as an authorized user, but set the delivery of cards and notifications to go only to his email and mailing preferences. He even told the bank not to issue physical cards for the additional user for simplicity. I never got a card, never got a statement. Didn't even know that was possible. But when my friend at the bank helped me pull the records, there it all was. Fancy restaurants I'd never been to, weekend Airbnb stays, a $300 necklace, bought 3 days before Tina's birthday. Like, seriously? I confronted him the next morning. He got defensive instantly, said I'm too controlling with money, and he needed freedom. When I asked about the credit cards, he said they were for emergencies. So romantic hotel weekends with my sister are now emergencies? I lost it. I threw his favorite mug against the wall. R.I.P. Darth Vader mug. He called me insane and stormed out. Haven't really talked since other than him yelling or pouting. I booked a consult with a divorce lawyer the next day. She was calm, kind, and incredibly helpful. Told me what documents to gather, advised me not to leave the house yet, and said to start tracking what was bought with joint funds versus personal gifts. It felt overwhelming, but at least it gave me something to do. I also went to urgent care and got tested for STIs. All came back negative, thankfully, but it was humiliating explaining why I needed the tests. While all this was going on, Nicholas started love-bombing me. Flowers. Apologies. Let's go to therapy. We can get through this. When I didn't react, it flipped. Now I was not even trying. He'd go from fake sad to passive-aggressive to silent depending on the hour. Then came the kicker. I came home early from work, power outage at the office, and heard him on the phone in the kitchen. He didn't hear me come in. He was telling Tina, just give her some space. I'm handling it. Once this blows over, we'll figure things out. I just walked in, grabbed my water bottle, and left. Didn't say a word. He knew I heard. He hung up fast, but didn't follow me. That night, I called my cousin Jason. He owns a rental house that's currently empty while he renovates. I didn't even get through the full story. He said, "It's yours. No pressure. Pay what you can." I cried again, but this time it was relief. Since then, I've been slowly moving stuff over while Nicholas is at work. Just the essentials for now. Documents, clothes, sentimental stuff. I've opened a new bank account at a completely different bank. I'm setting myself up to walk away clean. Last weekend, Nicholas ordered an expensive watch online, $2,100 paid for with our joint account. He claimed it was for work meetings to keep up appearances, but I knew it was just another attempt to stroke his ego in the middle of all this chaos. The delivery was scheduled for yesterday when I'm usually at work, but I'd swapped shifts last minute and happened to be home when the courier rang the bell. I signed for the package and out of sheer curiosity and spite opened it. And there it was, the shiny, absurdly overpriced watch. For a second, I thought about just leaving it on the table as more evidence of his reckless spending. But then I thought, why should I? This came out of our joint account. I didn't want to cause a scene or break any laws, so I looked up the store's return policy. Turns out, as long as the item was unopened and I could prove the purchase came from a joint account, they'd allow an in-person return for refund. No questions asked. I drove to the nearest branch the same day with the receipt from our online banking. The clerk barely blinked, scanned the barcode, confirmed the transaction, and processed the refund right there. The money went back into our joint account within the hour, but I'd already set up account alerts and knew exactly when to move my share into my new bank. He probably wouldn't even notice until the next time he tried to flex. Nicholas is away at an actual work conference right now. He has no idea that the house is half empty, that I've got divorce papers drawn up, or that he'll be walking into the ugliest wake-up call of his life. I don't know what happens next. I'm terrified. I'm pissed, but I'm also ready, and that's something. Thanks again to everyone who listened. I'll update again once things move forward. Second update. It's been a month since my last update, and a lot has happened. When I left off, I was about to leave Nicholas while he was at his work conference. I'd moved most of my stuff to my cousin Jason's rental property, returned that expensive watch he'd ordered, and had divorce papers ready to go. Well, I did it, and the fallout has been intense. The morning Nicholas was due back, I did one final sweep of our house. I only took what was definitely mine and a few sentimental items we'd bought together that I couldn't bear to part with. I left all the furniture except my grandmother's antique reading chair that's been in my family for generations. I placed the divorce papers on the kitchen table with my note on top. You were right. I don't know how to keep a man happy, but apparently, neither does my sister. Next to it, I left my house key and wedding ring. Then I walked out for good. That night at my new place was weird AF. I felt hollow, like I was watching someone else's life. I kept my phone turned off because I didn't want to deal with the inevitable explosion once Nicholas got home. When I finally turned it back on the next morning, there were 27 missed calls from Nicholas, 12 from Tina, 5 from my mom. Nicholas left voicemails that started confused. Hey, where are you? Did you go to your parents? Then turned angry. What the hell is this? We need to talk right now. And finally sounded desperate. Please call me back. We can work this out. I'm sorry. I made a mistake. Tina's messages were all about Nicholas pulling away from her and asking if I'd talk to him. She had no clue I'd left and served him with papers. My mom was just checking if I was okay after Nicholas called them looking for me. I texted mom that I was safe but needed space. I didn't respond to Nicholas or Tina. Around noon, my lawyer emailed me. Nicholas had already contacted her office. She reminded me not to talk to him directly about anything related to the divorce and to forward any messages from him to her. Honestly, it was such a relief having that boundary. The next few days were a blur of logistics. Setting up utilities, changing my address everywhere, telling people at work about my new contact info. Nicholas kept switching between blowing up my phone and going silent for hours. I documented everything but didn't answer. Then came the first real surprise. 5 days after I left, Tina showed up at my workplace. I was walking to my car after my shift when I spotted her leaning against a lamppost in the parking lot, arms crossed, eyes red like she'd been crying. When she saw me, she straightened up and started walking over fast. I almost kept going. Every instinct told me to ignore her. But she called my name loud enough that a couple co-workers turned to look. I didn't know where else to go, she said. She didn't outright ask for help. Instead, she launched into this rambling story about how Nicholas had stopped talking to her, how he'd promised her all these things and then bailed, how our parents were treating her like she didn't exist. I know you hate me, she said, but you don't get it. He used me too. I thought he actually cared. It wasn't an apology. It was her trying to make herself the victim again, like I'd somehow feel sorry for her. I could see it in her eyes. She wasn't here to fix things. She wanted me to tell her it wasn't her fault. When I didn't say anything, she stepped closer, voice dropping. You're not the only one who got hurt, you know. I looked at her, really looked at her and felt nothing. Not anger, not satisfaction at her suffering, not even pity, just emptiness. I told her I couldn't help her and that she should call our brother Robert. When she tried to grab my arm, I yanked it away hard enough that she stumbled backward. Then I got in my car and drove away. Later that night, she texted from a new number. He's changed. I think he still loves you. We made a mistake. I stared at that message for, like, 20 minutes. Then I took a screenshot and sent it to Nicholas without any comment. He called immediately, but I didn't answer. An hour later, he texted, "It wasn't like that. She's lying. I never loved her. It was just physical. Please talk to me." I forwarded that message to Tina without comment too. Maybe that was petty, but I wanted them both to see what the other was saying. I wanted them to feel a fraction of the betrayal I felt. A week later, I was served with Nicholas's response to my divorce filing. He was contesting everything, property division, the grounds for divorce, even claiming I had abandoned the marital home. My lawyer said this was typical as an initial negotiation tactic and not to worry. What Nicholas didn't know was that I had documented everything meticulously. Every sketchy financial transaction, every text message, photos of him and Tina together, recordings of his admissions, statements from witnesses. My lawyer seemed super confident we had a solid case. 2 weeks after I left, I finally met with my parents. They looked exhausted. Dad hugged me for so long when I arrived. Mom kept wiping tears. They told me they had several conversations with Tina. She was staying with Robert temporarily, but it wasn't going well. Apparently, she kept insisting that she and Nicholas had a real connection and that everyone was overreacting. My brother's wife was apparently ready to throw Tina out herself. I told my parents about the divorce proceedings and my new place. I assured them I was okay financially and emotionally. Kind of a lie, but they had enough to worry about. Dad surprised me by saying they'd already spoken to a family lawyer about removing Tina from their will. I told them that wasn't necessary. She was still their daughter, but Dad was firm. He said actions have consequences, and they raised us both better than this. 3 weeks after leaving, I learned through my lawyer that Nicholas had withdrawn a large sum from our joint savings account, about $7,000. Luckily, I'd already moved most of my share to my new account, but it still felt like another violation. My lawyer immediately filed motions to freeze the remaining joint assets and for temporary financial orders. The court date was set for the following week, but 2 days before, Nicholas's lawyer contacted mine. Suddenly, he wanted to negotiate. No court, no fight. He would agree to my proposed property division if I would agree to keep the reason for divorce private rather than citing adultery specifically. My lawyer advised me this was a good deal. I'd get what I wanted financially without a long court battle. But something felt off. Why the sudden change? Why was he so concerned about the public record? I asked for time to think about it. That evening, I got a text from an unknown number, Tina using a friend's phone. Nicholas's boss found out about us. He's in trouble at work. Please don't make things worse for him. And there it was. Nicholas's work had a strict policy about personal conduct, especially for someone in his position. If the divorce cited adultery with specific details, it could affect his job. That's why he suddenly wanted to settle. I told my lawyer I would agree to the terms with one addition. Nicholas would be responsible for all legal fees, including mine. His lawyer countered, we negotiated, and finally settled on him paying 80% of all fees. The papers would be signed the following week. Yesterday was actually the first day I didn't cry at all. Not once. I went to work, had lunch with a coworker, came home, made dinner, watched a show, and went to bed. Normal things. Small things. But they felt like victories. This morning, I woke up to 15 missed calls from that same unknown number Tina had been using. I haven't listened to any of the voicemails. I don't need to hear her excuses anymore. This afternoon, I was grocery shopping when I got an email from Nicholas's company. Not directly from HR, but from their legal department. Apparently, Nicholas told them I was spreading false rumors about him at work, including claims of infidelity. The email was framed like a basic fact check. They said they were conducting an internal review and wanted to confirm whether certain allegations were true. I stared at that email in the middle of the cereal aisle for so long. An employee asked me if I was okay. When I got home, I sent the email to my lawyer immediately. She called me 10 minutes later and said we'd respond officially, but carefully. Together, we drafted a brief statement confirming that I had filed for divorce based on clear evidence of infidelity, and that I had no involvement in spreading personal information at his workplace. We attached screenshots and a redacted version of the spa receipt, just enough to make the point. We kept it factual, professional, and short. An hour later, we got the standard out-of-office reply. So now I wait. My brother Robert called this evening to check on me and mentioned that Tina had finally moved out of his house yesterday. Tina's now staying with a friend, though Robert doesn't know which one. He said she left a mess in their guest room, stained sheets, makeup all over the bathroom counter, and even a small burn on the carpet from a straightening iron. While we were talking, I got a notification that Nicholas had posted on Instagram for the first time in weeks. It was a photo of a whiskey glass with some deep quote about weathering storms and finding yourself. I almost laughed. What's wild is that 6 weeks ago, that post would have devastated me. Now it just seems pathetic. The man who laughed while I cried, who stole my birthday money to cheat with my sister, who told me I didn't deserve gifts. Now he's posting sad boy content on social media. I'm still staying at Jason's rental place, but I've started looking for my own apartment. I've been browsing FB Marketplace for secondhand furniture and signed up for one of those meal kit services so I'm not just eating takeout every night. Tomorrow, I have a meeting with my lawyer to review the final settlement agreement before Nicholas signs it next week. She thinks we've covered everything but wants to double-check there are no surprise assets or debts we've missed. I know the road ahead is still long. The divorce will take time to finalize completely. Nicholas and Tina wanted to play adult games. Now they're facing adult consequences, and that feels like justice. Last update. So many of you have DM'd asking for updates, and I've been meaning to post one for a while. I promised a final update once things were settled, so here goes. First off, the divorce was finalized last month. Nicholas eventually stopped contesting everything once his company started investigating him. In the end, our assets were divided mostly as I initially proposed. I kept my retirement accounts and personal belongings. He kept the house, but had to refinance to remove me from the mortgage and pay me my share of the equity. We split our joint savings minus the $7,000 he had withdrawn, and he was responsible for 80% of all legal fees as agreed. The whole thing was expensive and draining, but ultimately fair. The most unexpected thing happened the day we finalized everything at the courthouse. Nicholas asked through his lawyer if we could talk for 5 minutes. My lawyer advised against it, but I was curious what he could possibly have to say, so I agreed as long as we stayed in the courthouse with security nearby. He started by saying he wasn't trying to win me back, but he needed me to know he recognized how badly he messed up. He asked if we could eventually be on speaking terms. I said probably not, but that I wished him well. That last part wasn't entirely true. I don't wish him ill exactly, but I don't particularly wish him well either. I just want him to stay in my past. As for Tina, that's more complicated. After getting kicked out of Robert Place, she bounced between friends' couches for a while. Most of them got sick of her after a couple weeks. According to my mom, she'd stay up late drinking wine and crying about how unfair everything was, but wouldn't actually do anything to improve her situation. She eventually moved back in with our parents about 3 months ago. Mom says it's been super tense. Dad barely speaks to her, and Mom is caught in the middle trying to keep peace in the house. Tina found a job at some call center and is supposedly saving for her own place, but the progress is snail slow. I guess it's hard to say when you spend half your paycheck on Sephora orders and Uber Eats. We still haven't spoken directly since that day in the parking lot at my work. She sent countless texts from various numbers after I kept blocking her. They've evolved from defensive, "You don't understand what Nicholas and I had," to desperate, "Please talk to me, I miss my sister," to resigned, "I know you'll probably hate me forever." I haven't responded to any of them. My extended family knows something happened between Tina and me, but not all the details. Most haven't pried, though my grandma, the one who sent the birthday money Nicholas stole, cornered me at Christmas and told me that whatever Tina did, I should remember that forgiveness heals the forgiver more than the forgiven. I nodded and changed the subject. "Love, Grandma?" But she doesn't understand that some betrayals can't just be forgiven with a hug and a prayer. As for me, I'm doing okay. Better than okay sometimes. I found my own apartment 2 months ago. A small one-bedroom with good natural light and a tiny balcony. Last week, I went on a third date with a guy I met through a friend. He's a radiologist at the children's hospital across town. He knows the broad strokes of my story and hasn't run away screaming yet. We're taking things extremely slowly, but it's nice to remember that not all men are trash. The most surprising development has been my relationship with my brother Robert. We were never particularly close growing up, 5 years apart and with totally different interests. But throughout this whole mess, he's been my biggest offender. When Tina tried to paint herself as the victim at a family dinner I wasn't attending, he apparently shut her down so thoroughly that she left the table crying. He calls me weekly just to check in, and his wife has become like the sister I feel I've lost. A few weeks ago, I ran into Nicholas at Target. I just nodded politely and walked away. Later, when I went to check out, the cashier told me someone had paid for my items. I knew it was him. I donated the exact amount, $74 and change, to a shelter that afternoon. I didn't want anything from him. The money from the watch return that I mentioned in my last update, I used it to book a solo trip to Costa Rica next month for my 30th birthday. I'm going to stay in a little beachfront cabin. I deleted my old Instagram, too many memories with Nicholas and Tina, and created a new private one with just close friends. I've been learning to cook actual meals instead of living on frozen dinners. I don't know if Tina and I will ever repair our relationship. Some days, I think the sister I love died the moment she chose to betray me. Other days, I remember the little girl who used to follow me around asking to borrow my clothes, and I wonder if something of that bond remains buried under all the hurt. Maybe time will tell, but I'm not rushing it.